Right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, we have liftoff. Yes. The Hapanwo TV live stream has cleared the tower and is heading off into space. Hello, Sweeps. How are you? Sweep says, "Be wise, all ye good folks here. Beware of taking any authority's word for what reality is." Wise words, Sweeps. Wise words indeed. I've got a little video to Sweeps has sent me a little video, not the long one you sent me, but you sent me a short one, which I'm going to play in a little while because it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Hello, DJ B2. How are you? Welcome. So we'll begin as always with the traditional Hapanwo TV theme. So we've got 3 people watching, so that's good. So we'll go straight over to that, and by the time it's finished, as always, there will be more people. So see you in a minute.
Conspiracies, government cover-ups, Earth mysteries, monster cryptids, cyber saucers, and black triangle, Hapanwo. Black goo and Antarctica, lizard kings from the 7th star, men in black and Queen Boudica, Hapanwo. Black goo and Antarctica, Keplers from the 7th star, men in black and Queen Boudica, Hapanwo. Welcome to the Hapanwo Show. Once I was alone, I was petrified, thinking I could be abducted when the bins went out. And so I spent so many nights thinking about the gray that might be there. But I grew strong, and now I really couldn't care. Save me from the aliens, save me from the government, save me from the men in black who call. Save me from the skeptics, save me from the watchers. Justice must be done for Richard D. Hall. No more psyop whitewashes. No more left in fear. How long till disclosure comes? Is it really getting near? Is it really getting near? Is it really getting near? Or are we always gonna wonder? Are we never gonna know? Is it just a way to control us created oh so many years ago? Save me from the sheeple, save me from the liars. Open up your eyes and see their false flag planned attacks. Save me from the grifters, save me from the spiteful mutant hacks. Our fear is their power, our obedience the same. Make quiet acts of integrity always be your aim. Make quiet acts of integrity always be your aim. Speak truth to power, always be the keeper of the flame.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Right. Hello. Welcome, everyone who has joined this evening. We have DJ and we also have Neil Peel, Paranormal Peep Show, Evening Spacefarers. Well, someone's gone into space anyway. And we have here Teddy and Paddy Bears. That's a good name. Hi, Ben. How you doing? And we have Body Technician. How are you all? Welcome, all of you. Good. Great you're here. Got another little video I want to play for you. This was, pardon me. This was sent to me by Sweeps. And Sweeps is in the live chat right now. He just sent me a longer one as well, which I'm going to watch later. But Gavin says here, evening, Ben, been looking forward to this one. Oh, cool. Well, I hope you enjoy it. So here we go. Let me just find the right video. Is this one? Yeah, I think it's this one. But it's quite funny. It's off topic, but I thought I'd show it to you because I'm not sure. Web videos, really. So that's not it. I'm hanging around these boys and girls' laptop. That's not it. Which is the one that he sent me? Hang on a sec. Is it this one? I've got too many things in my. Problem is, I've got too many things in my. It's not here. Oh, sorry, Sweeps. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's not. Oh, maybe that is the one. Hang on. Sorry. This may be the one. Hang on. I'm just going to see if it's the right one. Sorry, guys. As always, I've been trying to make notes, but I can never get everything completely right. Web videos, really. So,
a Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Videos. This is by Sweeps. Here we go. Let me just put you on. I'll put you on. As always, I will put you on full screen. Just one sec. Hi, Torengan. How are you? Here we go. Not full screen, but I'll put it on like this. This is Sweeps sent me this. Web videos, really.
One
so
of the most
I have a hard time hanging around in guys and girls' laptop.
We've done the homework here.
You know, Sweeps, you do work very hard.
Administratively, they will be.
You work very hard, Sweeps. We all know you do. And indeed, you sometimes you just have to take time out because I'm like, I'm sometimes thinking maybe I'm overdoing it with the content creation. So Sweeps, good luck with your new video. Let me know how you get on with it.
Sweeps Fox, getting a running jump into the show. That's a good thing to do. Good golly, we'll do a cross between a Saturday Night Live type complete parody with a little bit of Monty Python thrown in. That would be good, yes. Meanwhile, something completely different then. Let's head in and watch this guy head out. It's a sort of a spitting image, a look-alike. You know who it really is meant to be. Yes, coming out of the White House. It's a lot of fun. These people think they're going to interview the greatest person they've ever interviewed. There's no doubt about it. He feels that way. And he wants everything named after him. Even your children. Name your kids after him. Name airports after him. Name Hormuz after him. Good golly. But abandon all hope. All ye who enter here. Yep, the White House is a different place. You have to abandon hope these days. And inside, the reporters still want to know what this man is going to do to help the people of Iran. What are you going to do, Mr. President? How can you help these people? Oh, you've changed your mind. You're not going to help them. You're going to stone them. Well, you're going to send them back to the Stone Age. Yeah, that's what you want to do, okay? We think that you're not as moral as you think you are. Yes, you have a history of morality with Epstein and a lot of other people. But, yeah, check the new things being named after you. Very important. Then you can get back to blasting civilians, their homes, and all of their infrastructures. Yes, because you're a narcissist. Yes, but you also have some problems health-wise, don't you? Yes. Go get changed there. Yeah, close that door, go get changed. And take them away, fellas. Yes, okay. Take them away as far as you can. Even away from the doctor. Get them out of the house there, yeah. And definitely creature of the swamp, no doubt about that. Talk about a swamp creature. There you go. How did we end up this way, folks?
Yeah. Thanks, Sweeps. That was really funny. I mean, obviously it's off topic, but sure, we'll come back to the Iran situation again at some point. But anyway, hello everyone, and we've got here Tor Engen. Oh yeah, Tor, how you doing? And Richard KT4T3 says, "Hi Ben and all. Been analysing this stuff for decades. Never seen a blooming thing. UFO stuff. Oh, you're listening to UFO? Oh well, we'll see. We'll see what happens." Anyway, Brett Riverboat says, "Absolute rubbish." Oh, he's got his Steve Mumbling voice. He's channeling his inner Steve Mumbling. He's got Lister from Red Dwarf there. Yeah. Absolute rubbish. They were floating by the ISS station. Great II pictures of the Earth and the Moon. Well, it's funny you should say that, because Bart has actually, he's got AI to admit that these pictures look fake. Now, not that AI is all-knowing, but AI is impartial, or supposedly impartial. But yeah, I mean, the point is that it's possible. I mean, this is early days. I mean, what you have with when Apollo happened was it took a couple of years for information really to come out through people like Bill Casing, who I do not accept just got the idea from some homeless guy, some like homeless down and out that he wanted. It wasn't that. What happens if I click that to show comments on stage? What happens? Oh no, I've got to pay for that. All right. It wasn't just some homeless guy, and it took a couple of years. And this is an ongoing project. It's going to take a while before we have all the information. So I will be coming back to this topic. Oh, Teddy and Paddy Bear says, "Oh right, this is Stuart from Leamington Spa. Hello, right. How many of you remember this guy? How many of you remember him? Let's have a look. This was a video I made. How long ago was it, Stuart? How long ago did we make this? Oh, right. Let's have a look. It was a year ago. It was a whole year ago. This video, Birthplace of the Beast, which I uploaded. God, it was literally just over a year ago, 25th of April, 2025. And I remember it very well. And I actually mentioned Stuart here, who actually was I went to Leamington Spa to visit the birthplace of Aleister Crowley, and which is a house in Leamington Spa, and he acted as my tour guide and he took part in the film. So thank you very much, Stuart. Much appreciated. So I'm now open to the idea that the actual Orion capsule I do believe it went into space. It took the 4 named astronauts into space: Reed, Vic, Chrissy, and Jezza, and they basically may have been in radio silence in Earth orbit for all that time, for those 10 days. Now, if so, then how did they get their signals to the relay object? the relay spacecraft. That's an open area of research because there could be signs. Because if it was under radio silence, of course, it couldn't. It would need to have basically a beam of some kind, possibly an optical beam, which was directional and was connected to the relay craft. The relay craft was the one that actually went to the moon. This is the one that people were detecting, which is technically possible. Yep. One half the Mitchell brothers. I think that's Crowley. Yeah, it was a great day. Yeah, he was. Had long silky hair when he was young, Crowley. But or alternatively, it could be that the Orion spacecraft did go to the moon, but it had an SSP escort. If it had an SSP escort, then this was an object, secret space program. This was a vehicle which, as you know, probably ran by anti-gravity free energy, and was maybe capable of casting some kind of energy shield around the craft, which indeed they can do around themselves, which would have protected it from the radiation. That is the particles from in the solar wind, cosmic rays, solar flares, X-rays, that kind of thing. And as Brett says, so let me get this right, we landed on the moon in the 60s on the first attempt and came back with the NASA computer power of today's mobile phone. Yep. And indeed, Bart has made this point in the article that I wrote in the previous video. In the previous video I did, which I did a few days ago, I mentioned Bart's article. So the first thing to do, I will go through the comments on the notice. Now, the notice I've deleted now. There was only one comment. It was Red Ibex going first. So he got his tinfoil hat and he got his gold tinfoil hat and buggered off. Okay, I've read those articles. I've read those ones. Right. Now I'm curious to see what Jarrah White actually writes next, because Jarrah, as you know, has written this article at owlist.com. And he is reassessing, like a good scientist. He is reassessing his previous conclusions. Now, this is, ironically, this is the very thing that the NASA believers are castigating him for. This is the very thing that they're saying how awful he is for doing this. I think it's this one here. Is this one? No, this is the, let me just find the right, Jarrah White's column, yeah. Jarrah, you see, is here. He wrote this, Radiation for Dummies. And everyone's saying how awful he is for doing that. And it says here, analysis of Artemis I data suggests that the Van Allen and cislunar radiation is more dangerous than advertised for Artemis II. This is why he was concerned for the safety of the astronauts. Now, if I'm right, and they used one of two methods to protect themselves from this radiation, it would explain this. I know Jarrah won't go there, though. He doesn't get into things like anti-gravity. He won't get into things like the secret space program. But this is a possibility that I think we should consider. This is their storm shelter here. Basically, they sit in this little seat here and surround themselves with these boxes of equipment and stuff like that. You can go and read this if you like. Go and read it. Jarrah is reassessing his position. Like I say, he's reassessing his position. And the skeptics are going, what are you doing? What are you doing changing your mind? This is what I mean. You can't win with the skeptics. They'll say, you just believe things and you don't investigate. And when you start investigating, they say, stop investigating that now. We know it's not real, or we know aliens aren't real or something. And so you can't win with them. And like I said, they'll say, well, once you've made up your mind, you never change your mind. You just alter reality in your head to fit your previous conclusion. And when we don't do that and we actually change our minds, suddenly we're bad again for changing our minds, which is what they've done to Jarrah. So don't try to appease the skeptics. It won't work. Don't counter signal them. Just leave them I mean, debate with them if you want, but leave them to their devices. Hello, David Splendid Isolation. Welcome. I've got to contact you actually because something next month. There's something going on next month I want to talk to you about. So That's the first thing I want to go through. Now, the escape slide, I don't think the escape slide thing's a big deal. Now, somebody, maybe I shouldn't say who it was, but somebody sent me an interesting video, this one. I haven't actually finished it yet. I haven't had time to finish it all. But I do recommend this one. This is DTR S7. Now, Deep Thoughts Radio. I've only just heard about this guy. I've never heard of him before. He's very funny, actually. He's got a cigar, and he sits there with a
Anyone
cigar.
who's responsible for the nationality of...
But he's given me an awful lot of information. Someone sent me this and just said, Ben, see if you can watch this before if you've got time, watch this before you do your show. Now, Sweeps also sent me a video, which I'm going to watch, it was just too long to... Actually, it was too long to actually cover at the time, but this guy is brought out a lot of interesting information. Now, I don't believe all of it is correct, but some of it is correct, and I'll go through those things. Oh, Over the Moon is here. All right. Jarrett hasn't changed his mind. He's blamed NASA for him being wrong. Oh, see, there we go. You see, there we go. It's Over the Moon. First of all, is it possible that Jarrah is right in that case? Is it? I mean, did NASA? I mean, I haven't actually seen what he's written personally. Maybe he'll put up another. He'll put up another article. I mean, I haven't had time to look at all his social media posts. But could it be that's actually fair enough? I don't know. And all right, David said, I had a conversation with Jarrah, explaining to him that they avoided the inner belt entirely because he seemed to think that they went through. He wanted the data for that. He may have it now, not sure. I think he did cover that, David. I think that actually isn't a solution to the issue. There is an inner belt which is more intense than the outer belt. There's also another belt it's actually declining slowly, but it was caused by Operation Starfish Prime when they actually there was a. This is something that some other people have talked about, people in the UFO field as well. There were a number of nuclear tests in the 1950s and 60s before nuclear tests were banned. And a lot of them did a huge amount of damage. The Bikini Atoll. People have only just the Marshallese, the native people of the Bikini Atoll. It's only I think in the 1990s they were allowed back into their homeland. Because the radiation level dropped enough in all that time. So we're talking like 30 plus 40, almost 40 plus years it took them to get back. And they still can't sell the fish. If they catch fish, they're allowed to eat them, but they still are not allowed to sell them on the international market if they catch fish in their lagoon. But among this series of nuclear tests, these very destructive nuclear tests, and I'm not just blaming the Americans here, because the Soviets also carried out nuclear tests in Kazakhstan, which were actually far worse. They were actually a lot more. They used dirtier bombs. And they didn't clean up as much. But what happened was the Americans carried out a number of high altitude nuclear tests, including ones in space. They actually launched a couple up. I think they launched a couple up to about 200,000 to 300,000 feet, and they detonated them there. And that caused all kinds of problems. It caused the sky to glow. It caused, and it created a radioactive zone in orbit, which is still causing problems today. Oh, David says here, with the inner belt avoided and flying over most of the rest, how long would the exposure time need to be before it became dangerous, do you think? Well, according to Jarrah, it's not just the Van Allen belts that are the problem. It's also it's X-ray emissions from the sun. Tor Engen, real science is always based on falsification. It always changes. Well, it should do, Tor. It should do. But then you see, if you're a woo-woo and you do that, it's like Avi Loeb. I mean, it's people. You say you could be a real scientist and use the scientific method. If you say the wrong thing, that's what we've seen with people like Avi Loeb. You get lumped in with the loonies. You get lumped in with the kind of Glastonbury set. This is why so many people who agree with us don't speak out. Michael Shermer pissed me off. What Michael Shermer said, what did he say the other day, the idiot? No, I don't want to be too hard on Michael Shermer because he's a perfect example, Michael Shermer. Because he's sort of wavering a little bit, I think, Shermer. he is very wavering, but he's still, it's a long, changing your mind is a long, tortuous process with lots of regression. So over the moon, I mean, I haven't seen what Jarrah has said and hasn't said, but I will see what he has to say first before I decide. It's like people say, well, Ben, what do you think about this? Your Bigfoot's been proved to be a hoax. Bigfoot is now disproved. Do you still believe in it? All right, here we go. Let's have a look. Let me just show you here. What am I looking for now? Okay. What's his name? Michael Shermer. Here we are. He said, this is what he said. He was a bloody... Now, I mean, I do follow him, He's a... I wouldn't say he's a hate follow, but where is it? Oh, he's tweeting an awful lot. Where's this? Where are we now? I can't... He said something like... Oh, here we are. Here we are. Right. This is Michael Shermer at his worst. I can't do it. I'm not going to try and do his voice. Steven Spielberg says his movie is closer to the truth than fiction about aliens. Okay. And he would know this how? This is the important bit. Scientists who study the subject say there is no evidence of alien visitation. How does a Hollywood producer know more than the scientist? He doesn't. Promotion. All right. Well, yep, of course, he does want to promote the film, and he's done a damn good job. I mean, remember that Steven Spielberg is not just the director of Disclosure Day; he's the co-producer, and he's shown himself to be a marketing genius. I mean, he's driven people like us into this frenzy of curiosity. But so why wouldn't he want to promote the film? I mean, he's not. I mean, the only filmmaker I know who made a movie and doesn't want to promote it is Dion Johnson, the director of bloody. As you may know, I mean, this is not a secret anymore. Capel Green is in distribution hell right now, and it's got a lot to do with. I think it's got a lot to do with the director. And there's a lot of conflict going on. I don't know all the details, but I do wonder what the hell's going on. I really do. But I mean, with the exception of Dion and Capel Green, most movie makers, when they've invested a load of money into something and they've spent a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of expense creating a movie, they want to promote it so people will watch it. That's the whole point. Now, I don't know how much information Spielberg has. I know that that Close Encounters, of which this may be a sequel, was based on was based on some information that he got the idea when he spoke to somebody who knew Ronald Reagan. Anyway, I'm going off topic a little bit, but that's an example. This is an example. First of all, scientists. This is the point. God, I don't have to go off topic sometimes. I do ramble. Scientists who study say there's no evidence of alien videos. So which scientists, Michael? Which ones are you talking about? Doctor, Professor who? Yeah. And of course, that's not true. If he means all scientists, then he's wrong. He means probably most of them. And well, most of them say they don't believe in alien visitation. But how many of them are saying they don't believe in alien visitation because they really think that, or they just don't want to be laughed at, and they don't want to be ostracized. They don't want people walking out of the refectory at the university when they walk in, which is what Dr. John Mack had to endure. You've got to realize that one of the rarest qualities in human beings is unfortunately courage. Most people aren't brave. It's a fact, and I wish they were. I wish more were. Most people aren't. Most people don't care about that. Most people don't feel any shame for cowardice. I mean, if I'm ever cowardly, and I have been, I feel very ashamed of it afterwards. Most people don't. All right, and so this is. Well, I know we're being more general here, but this also applies to things like the moon landings. Okay. We have here David Splendid Isolation, who says here, oh, where are you? Where is he? Here he is. Ben, You're aware they had a solar radiation shelter on board, which is sort of a dugout area, and they surround themselves with layers of water and other material. They were ready to go if alerted. Yeah, well, according to Jarrah, that wasn't enough. And what's more, is it? I mean, according to some of the other data during the people who studied Apollo said the same thing. Remember, in Apollo, they had nothing. They had nothing like that. So, I mean, Jarrah talks about that in more detail. Actually, in the article I showed you, Radiation for Dummies, which I showed you, which refers to the data collected on Artemis I, which had it did have some dummies on board it. Hi, Rhiannon, how are you? Hello, we played your tune again, like we always do. David, I can't wait to see Disclosure Day. Me neither. Oh my goodness me! Just wait for the reportages. Wait for the roving reviews I do for that. Over the moon, Cecilia. David, I spent the last 2 days writing a paper on how linguistic isolation in the workplace is a duty of care problem. The world's gone mad on health and safety. Well, finally, something we agree on, Over the Moon. Spanish chicken. When were the Van Allen belts discovered, and did the Apollo missions protect the astronauts? They were discovered in the geophysical year of 1959. So this was literally just 2 years before President Kennedy made his famous speech. And so literally the Explorer 1 rocket, actually the radiation meter actually burned out because it was overloaded. And there was more studies than the Van Allen belts. They knew a little bit was known about it because some of the particles actually reached ground level, and they were found in ice layers in the North Pole and things like that. I can't remember all the details, but basically when Apollo was being planned, they literally had just a handful of years of research into it. You see, Tor Engen. If you attack the person, not the subject, and the group is doing it, they use what psychology calls it peer pressure. Yeah. The herding instinct. Oh, it's very, very powerful. I think it was Seneca, wasn't it? A guy back in the Roman times who said most men would face an army rather than the scorn of their peers. Yeah. Sweeps, just to say RIP and let all know here, if you're not aware, that Nick Pope passed away 6th of April, will be missed. I've done a few radio shows with him. Yeah, I think we actually met him, Sweeps. He's been at several conferences where you and I have been. I mean, yeah, Nick Pope, as you know, I had my differences with, but I did write a little obituary to him. I am genuinely sad about that we've lost him because he's part of the furniture, isn't he? I mean, you turn on a TV program about UFOs or watch a movie, and you expect to see him, and he's left a big hole. He really has. I fell out with him because he did, I believe, spread false information, especially about the Rendlesham Forest incident. But I saw him at Contact in the Desert, as you know, and I was nice to him. I felt obliged to be polite to him, and I smiled and I said hello, and I'm glad I did. Now I'm glad I did. That's the last time I saw him and spoke to him. You're welcome, Rhiannon. David. Good. Oh, yeah, David says it's fortunate they didn't encounter a solar radiation storm event. I wouldn't have been too keen on testing their numbers, but they are brave men and women. The thing is, David, it's easy to say that afterwards when they come back and say, well, we were just lucky. Not so easy beforehand when you're planning the mission, knowing the consequences of what would happen should a large radiation event hit the spacecraft. Knowing that when you consider the power of a major coronal mass ejection, you're looking at certain death. I mean, and of course they have returned safely, but I mean, as I said, how long will they be safe for? I mean, you know what the effect radiation has on you? There's the acute effect, that is Curie fever. You're vomiting, diarrhea, skin lesions, things like that. That's the acute effect. You can actually have quite a large dose of radiation and recover from it. But those who do, they generally don't last long afterwards. Usually within a couple of years, they come down with leukemia and things like that. Over the moon. So Jarrah claims radiation would kill the crew, and NASA was displaying the risk. And the crew are not dead, so now he's claiming NASA overplayed the figures, and that's why they're not dead, and he wasn't wrong. Well, if that's the case, then maybe is that true though? Is that true? Over the moon. I mean, in my view, if if this is the case, then it could be that Jarrah is not wrong, but for another reason, which is the ones I've told you about. Now, Bart Sobral has I know Jarrah won't go into certain areas. I personally I firstly think there was another solution to this problem, and I've just explained what they were. That is, it was an orbital mission with a relay object, an unmanned surrogate craft, which essentially was in constant communication with the Orion craft in low Earth orbit, or there was an SSP escort which protected them from radiation by using its own gravitational field. David Splendid Ice Station. What are the number of times that a dangerous solar storm happened during the Apollo mission? Is there any data on that? Well, yes, there is, and indeed you know it because you listen to Her Panwo radio, you listen to the Her Panwo show, where every week I do a space weather report. The answer is there were some significant solar events. Now, none of them were Earth effective to the point where they would have harmed the Orion spacecraft. None of them were directly Earth effective in that sense. However, it's not just there's more to this than that. I mean, there are other solar events which aren't necessarily detectable. Indeed, galactic cosmic rays and things like that. Which are caused by things like gamma ray bursts and things like that. Hello, Tessa. How are you? Welcome, Tessa. And Rhiannon, Tessa's fellow Welsh woman, is waving back. So let me just go to my notes here. I don't want to make this too long because I'm getting up early tomorrow. Right, where are we now? Where's the ad? Here we go. I just got to play this. Sorry, if I don't do this, I will forget. So I've got to play another video quickly. Because this is just, if it works. All right, here we go. Right. So just a little interlude. I mean, I'll just do a little interlude now. Okay, for you. Here we go.
Hi, Ben. What are we up to in May then?
Well, this is really, really great, Neil. Great news for everyone. We're on the 19th of May, which is a Tuesday evening. We're going to be speaking at the Changing Times event. Now, this is an interesting event in West Sussex, which has been going on for a very long time, actually. I don't know how long the organizer, Andy Thomas, is doing it for, but I know he has been doing an event there for over 20 years. And this is, it's like a little get-together of people, and it's quite informal and quite small and a well-organized little get-together. And we're doing an event called Messages Through Space and Time. And it's a kind of double bill, really, isn't it? Because we're both speaking, we're both doing short segments, and no doubt we'll be doing like a joint Q&A on several different subjects.
Yeah, so that's right. Well done. We are indeed doing a joint talk, a joint presentation, Messages Through Space and Time. And it's with the Paranormal Peep Show. So it's like a kind of, we're out on tour as such, but we're just doing that one event. So we're not doing massive venues throughout the country. But we will be talking on messages through space and time. So I'll be doing a talk initially on the Doddleston messages. That's inspired by the book The Vertical Plane. So it's where this guy called Ken Webster and his girlfriend Debbie Oates were receiving messages through their BBC microcomputer back in 1984 from a medieval person living in Chester. So he was, in fact, the original occupant of the cottage they lived in Doddleston in 1984. So he's communicating through time, potentially. So that's my talk. But what's your talk about?
I'm going to be discussing the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. That is, people pointing telescopes at the sky, looking for aliens out there. Now, the fact of the matter is, though, I believe aliens are already here on Earth with us. They've been here for a long time. They've been visiting us, and they come and go continuously. So there seems to be a bit of a contradiction there in methodology and indeed belief. But I'm going to see just how these two different issues relate to each other, and including recent events such as the discovery of several signals from other planets. For example, BLC-1, which is the Breakthrough Listen movement, which was set up by the Russian oligarch Yuri Milner. Very, very interesting indeed. And we've just been visited by a very strange object, which unfortunately has left us now. It's called 3i Atlas, the third detected interstellar object officially recognized. So yeah, that's going to be quite something. I look forward to that enormously.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll get a good crowd. But for those that are listening, if you want to meet Ben and I in person, that's Neil Ward and Ben Emlyn Jones, we will be at the Changing Times event, which takes place, as Ben said, on the 19th of May. It begins at 8:15, and it is at Cypress Hall in Cypress Road, Burgess Hill in West Sussex. And that is the Changing Times event. And I think they charge £8 entry. And so I'll be talking roughly 45 minutes, and Ben, you'll also be talking for 45 minutes. And it'll be the first time members of the Paranormal Peep Show will have spoken publicly together representing the Paranormal Peep Show. So that's a first for me and you.
It is indeed. Details at www.changingtimes.org.uk.
And we look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks very much, Neil. That's great. That's great. Okay, so all right, here we go. David says, no, sorry, I mean historical solar storm data from the Apollo missions. Is that what you mean? No, I'm referring to the Artemis II missions. But yeah, there is that has been covered in detail. Now, unfortunately, I don't have that detail, but it does exist. That the solar storm data does exist. Tessa says here, you sound much better, Ben. Disease gone? Yeah, I mean it was a brief, for about 2 days. I felt really bad, but I feel better now. Yeah, I do. Okay. Joel Engen, how are they able to transmit data from the backside of the moon? Well, they did actually. Funnily enough, they did go into. This is standard practice. They or the relay surrogate went into radio silence because they were actually the Earth was between them and the moon, and there was no way they could actually get transmissions through. Funnily enough, they were in radio silence for 43 minutes. Now, guess that the album by Pink Floyd called "The Dark Side of the Moon." Guess how long that takes to play? Yes, 43 minutes. And I bet you they were listening to that on that while they were going into. In behind the moon, and indeed, something was going behind the moon. I had it playing actually during that time, and so did a couple of other people. Yeah, Woody Allen says, "I'll be watching from bed tomorrow, Ben. Enjoy the conference." Thanks, Woody Allen. Yes, I know you're watching remotely. Yeah, I'm going to an event tomorrow at Conway Hall. I forgot what it's called. Something ghosts, aliens, and paranormal stuff. I'll be doing a written report on that. Okay, no video or anything, but I'll do a written report on that. It'll be on Panama Voice. If they couldn't land on this, EA Audits, how are you? If they couldn't land on the moon with Artemis, they did well in 1969. Well, did they? You see, yeah. I mean, Artemis II was never planned to be a lander. There was never a lunar module. It was always a flyby. It was actually a free return trajectory. You can actually see it behind me there. You can actually see it. A diagram of what it was. In fact, it was a far less ambitious mission than Apollo 8, which involved a lunar orbital insertion and then a trans-Earth injection. As Bart says, it was quite considerable there. But this is the point: is Artemis 3. This is the point now. Why can't they land on the moon? I mean, there is apparently a lunar landing mission planned. It's Artemis 4. Which will happen sometime at some point. We know there's Artemis 3 was originally going to be the landing mission. It's not now. It's been redesignated. It hasn't now. The Artemis they've not cancelled their lunar mission yet, the lunar landing mission, but they have postponed it. For how long? We'll find out. I mean, be sure, right? If and when that happens, I'll be covering it in detail. I mean, according to the skeptics. The skeptics are really, really projecting over the moon. If you're still watching, I mean, you were one of these people because you've been projecting a lot. Because I think you've got this idea that we're all suffering from Artemis derangement syndrome. If anything, it's you guys who are suffering from that, because this is not what you thought it would be. You thought this would be like a coup de grace against we the Apollo doubters, the hoax believers, and it's not. I'll go through some of the comments that were on the last video if I've got time. David, Ben, Nostalgia Nerd did a good video on the Doddleston messages. Obviously, he does retro computing, so the BBC Micro involved made him investigate the case. Oh, when I said BBC Micro, I don't know, I feel nostalgic. Oh, I'm probably from the first generation. You're similar age, David, so you'll be the same. We're probably the first generation of people who brought up on computer games and computers through our childhood. I had a Spectrum Plus. We were talking about this on the Panama Show chat box. And, I had a Spectrum Plus, and it was like really cool. Other people had like Spectrum 48K. Others had a Spectrum 16K, and they upgraded it. And there was a wonderful computer culture in those days. And I always remember the BBC computers. There was like a class. There was a class division. Maybe it's a British thing, but these little things are related to social class. So, for example, the BBC, all the posh kids had BBC computers, the middle class children, and the working class, the sort of like the Cowley workers they all had like Commodores and Spectrums and things like that. But I remember, I knew one of these posh kids was called Joseph. I remember him, yeah, because I went online with him for the first time ever, because I went around his house and he had this BBC Micro, and he showed me how he was basically there was no World Wide Web, but there was like Usenet and things like that in the early 80s. I think Usenet began in 1981 or something, and he was like talking to this guy in Munich in Germany, and they were playing chess. They were playing like remote they had this little chessboard, just a very simple line graphic of a chessboard, and he's playing chess with this guy in Munich. And I was wow, and I thought this was incredible. I was blown away by this futuristic stuff. But of course, it's nothing now, isn't it? Right, here we go. So where are we now? Torengen. Good. So they had a blackout in transmission. Where's the data? Well, they were gathering. They were actually told. I actually watched it, and they were saying they were telling the astronauts they were very busy during that period, and they were told to look out for. They were told to look out for impact flashes of like this is asteroids hitting the moon, creating new craters. Yeah. Over the Moon says, during your countdown and launch video, you said it couldn't be fate. I think you were waiting. You were waiting for a tragic event. What do you mean I was waiting for a tragic event? Were you saying I'd have been happy if there was a tragic event? Is that what you're claiming? I hope not, because that is first, it's false, and it's also defamatory. There were some people in the chat box who were sort of like anticipating something to go wrong. Yeah, I did say it couldn't be fake. I did say that they couldn't just fake it in a studio this time. I didn't say that everything that was happening was going to be real. I didn't say that. Oh, it's all calculated extremely well. And don't forget, Artemis I proved the tech. Well, did it, though? And Artemis is showing the impossibility of the Apollo missions. Well, that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Over the Moon says, Ben, you keep lying about me. I never said this mission would prove I never said that you wouldn't make a video about this. Stop lying. All right. I apologize, Over the Moon, if that was not false. I obviously mistook you for someone else. It wasn't a lie. I just mistook you for someone else. Apologies. But someone did say that, I would not answer any questions. I would just go into hiding. I would just forget about the whole thing, and I wouldn't make these videos. It wasn't you, it was someone else. So sorry about that. But, I'm not lying about you in the same way that. But then again, if I ask you for a similar level of professional respect here, please don't tell me that I was waiting for a tragic event. I was very, very relieved when there was no tragic event. That includes the splashdown as well. Steve Wills had a Commodore 64. You scruff bag. How are you doing, Steve? You're all right. Tor Engen. Well, it's usually based on the ISO standard. All right. Funny enough, there's been this guy, Deep Thought Radio. He spotted some fakery aboard the ISS as well. Now, I personally, I'm not a flat earther, and neither is he. But there's lots. There is. It's interesting to check that out. David says, here's a blast from the past. Did you play Granny's Garden on the BBC at school? Yeah, the Specky was utterly brilliant. My machine was from 82 to 88. Then I got an Atari ST, moving to 16-bit. I gave up on computing when I was I gave up on computers when I was about 16 or 17 or so when I sort of started work and started looking at a career and things like that. But my nose is itching. But when I went back to computing, like in the early 90s, but I stopped for a while. Wind your neck in, pal. Yeah, they're getting very, very aggressive. I found the believers. I say the believers, the Apollo believers, the skeptics. The last couple of weeks, they've really like turned up the heat. I've noticed this from Steve Mumbling as well. I've noticed this from a couple of others. Hello, Jake Yorkman. How are you? Nice to see you again. How's the arthritis nowadays? Well, my left knee's a bit bad. As you know, if you watch my Penta video, it came on very suddenly when I was in Wales, probably because of the wet weather. It was bloody soaked there. I got soaked to the skin. But you know, it's got a bit better since then. I've been taking glucosamine, which helps. Yeah, all this says Crowley. Most early astronauts had high 33-degree Masons and even carried Masonic flags in their own space shots. Commander of ISS also Masons. Send this, Ben. Share with audiences. Yeah, I mean, there's actually if you go to one of the Masonic halls, they got pictures of Buzz Aldrin and other people there. Yeah, Yordis. NASA need a serious astrophysicist. Well, Jara will offer his services, I'm sure. Over the moon. You said it about me over and over, at least 3 times. You're lying again. A lot were waiting for a tragic event, so you wouldn't have to address the success. Right. Well, I'm sorry if I mistook you. I haven't lied, but I made a mistake 3 times. I mean, you Apollo believers tend to blend into one, unfortunately. You lot were waiting for a tragic event, so you wouldn't have to address the success. Are you saying we were hoping for that? Is that what you say? Please clarify. Were you saying we were hoping for that? Hello, Vordanian. I watched David Boyle's episode last night, Ben. I think he was a great man. He was, yes. Oh, he was. I missed that guy. He was a real character. He really was. Remember, I met him at Pro. Jake Morgan. Good to hear it, mate. I knew it was bad a few years back now. I remember your videos. Yeah. I've had it on and off for since I was a porter, actually. I had it a little bit. David says that's awful. Thank you very much, David. Thank you. This is what I mean when they're getting aggressive, when they start saying things like that. All right. I actually did have to delete a comment that was held because someone actually put something that actually was illegal. They tried to put a comment on my channel, which was actually I would consider Fed posting, and so I had to delete it, and I did tell them that. Right, interesting thing, right? What's the astrology? Now, I'm not like a big astrology person, but here we go. But it was a full moon. Do you remember when they launched? It was a full moon. Funny, Stephen Burns actually is going on about astrology, which is weird because he's like think about I'll go to AI as always. Google AI, fount of wisdom. He's an astrophysicist. He's always gone about astrology. In the 2026 full pink moon in Libra for April 1st, which of course was the launch day, focuses on restoring harmony, balance, and intentionality in relationships. As the first full moon of the spring, it symbolizes rebirth, renewal, and releasing past burdens. That's interesting. It highlights finding interdependence between personal desires and partnership. The full moon in Libra, an air sign, focused on partnership, union, and justice. Yeah. Balance and relationships. This lunation prompts a reevaluation of imbalances, personal regrowth. It's often called the sprouting grass moon or egg moon, because it signifies spring's growth after awakening the winter. Relationship with the Aries season. While Aries season drives individual passion and independence, the Libra's full moon highlights the need to connect that personal power with others, interdependence. Utilize this time to engage in open, honest communication with partners to resolve lingering issues. I never thought that Google AI would sound like Mystic Meg. symbolic act. Since Libra is ruled by Venus, practitioners often use the color pink to light incense, use crystals and rose quartz. Dear me. Focus on journaling, relationship goals, and rituals. I don't think Google AI has had its skeptic lobotomy yet. All right. That's the astrology of the pink moon. It's just things in my notes I'm going through here. Right, the green screen error. This is something that's now. Let me just see if I can find a. I'll just see if I can find a. Okay, here we go. R2 green screen. There was a green screen error. Or looks like a green screen error. You think mine's bad? Right. Yeah, this is I'll look at AI here. Viral green screen claims regarding the Artemis II mission are false, stemming from a distorted cell phone recording of a television broadcast. The supposed error shows text flickering over a mascot, which experts identify as a broadcasting text overlay glitch during the newsfeed, not an evidence of a stage studio filmed mission. Right, a viral video on the TV broadcast appeared through the surface of the Rise stuffed toy mascot during a live crew interview. The cause was created by filming a television screen with a cell phone, which caused a desynchronization in the news station's text overlay. Official footage. The actual original broadcast from NASA shows a mascot normally without text flickering, confirming the anomaly was in the recording of the TV, not the original feed. Misinformation on the mission has been widespread, including AI-generated images pretending to be behind-the-scenes footage. Well, that does happen, unfortunately. Well, that's now. The question is that what happened, or is that like backfilling? That's the question. Anyway, what's we here? Jake Yorkman, did you ever write your book about skeptics? I was hoping to purchase it. I'm sorry, Jake, I didn't, because it would simply be a cut and paste job on what I've already written. Over the Moon says, read my comments properly. That's another. Skeptics always say that. Please try to read my comments properly. Yes, you were hoping for that. That's why you lot did a blackout until splashdown. Armstrong wasn't a Mason. Don't you think they would have wanted one of their own first? All right. I did read your comments properly. Skeptics always accuse me of not doing that. Right. First of all, why do you see? When you say you were hoping for that, how do you know that I was hoping for that? And what blackout till splashdown? The reason I did a blackout until splashdown was because I went to Weird Weekend North. Why do you think that I was hoping for? You need to answer this question. Why do you think that? What did I say or do that made you think I was so hateful and so angry that I wanted that? Because you're accusing me of something pretty nasty now, and you need to explain this, okay? David Splendid Isolation. I personally prefer to separately categorize genuine skeptics and pseudo skeptics who pretend to have honest skeptical inquiry, but really fundamentally biased from the start. Yeah. David said, you don't know that. You're making that up. And stop projecting onto Ben. Stop it. Thank you. Thank you, David, for sticking up for me. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, if I had thought that, that's a horrible thing. And it allows, if I'd said something like that, if I'd said, God, I just hope that rocket blows up. I really do. Right? That would make me a really bad person. And the thing is, a lot of skeptics do that. They want to make us bad people. They want to make us bad people. That's the point. And we often get this, don't they? Do you remember Richard Dawkins? I made this point in my skeptic video, right? In his Enemies of Reason, he refers to this conspiracy theory involving two large buildings in New York in 2001, which you can't say on YouTube. He refers to it only once to talk about this idea that all the J words were phoned up and told to stay off work. So every single J word you know what I mean by J word, was phoned up the day before, you know, who is this? Hello, yes? Ishmael, is that you? Yeah, who is this? Don't go into work tomorrow, something's going down, you know. It's ridiculous. But that's the only time Richard Dawkins referred to the you know what conspiracy theories. And this why? Because they can't prove you wrong, so they want to make you a bad person. Right, I'm just gonna open up Over the Moon's channel because
Yes. The Hapanwo.
Whoops, no, that's the wrong one. Let me just open up Over the Moon's channel because you'll see why. Well, you might see why in a minute. Because I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not. You need to explain to me why you think I thought that. Okay? I've already apologized for misrepresenting you. I'm not trying to make out you said if I said that I mistook you for someone else because you skeptics tend to blend into one, unfortunately. Hello, Arts Channel. How are you? And it's just the mascot green screen signature was very clear. It was embarrassing. Well, you see, the thing is, yeah, because we got an explanation now from Google AI saying that it's actually a mistake and that someone filming something with their mobile phone caused that effect. Now, is that true? Is it possible? Is that what actually happened? Or whoops, what's happening? Or is that what actually happened? Or or is that backfilling? Is that some kind of, is that part they thought, oh my God, we've made a mistake here. We need to cover up. We need some kind of explanation to explain why this happened. Because they do that. It's called backfilling. It's like do you remember in V for Vendetta? At the beginning of V for Vendetta, when V blows up the Old Bailey, it's reported in the news that this was deliberate because they were demolishing the Old Bailey anyway. That's backfilling. That's a bloody good film if you've not seen it. Looks like a film studio, Artemis II. There was no shower in the capsule or proper toilet. It would be impossible to be so clean every day. Well, they had a toilet which blocked up because the ejection pipe froze over, so they had to go back to the old method, which was adult nappies. They don't talk about it much, but they do wear nappies. It's that's nothing to be embarrassed about, I don't think. It's just normal. But yeah, Welsh Ripper says 3 buildings. Yes, we can't forget number 7, can we? EA orders. It's probably a NASA bot. Well, he's gone quiet now. Oh no, here he is. He's come back again. But and Arts Channel says, oh, sometimes I go for many days without a shower. Just use wet wipes under my arms. On a mission, it's doable. It is. I mean, the question is, did the men grow a beard? I mean, they look clean shaven actually the whole time. It's like the cramped conditions of early submariners. They had it much worse, especially the high temperature environment. The thing is, though, those guys grew beards. I mean, you've seen it in the old in Das Boot, you know, where they all grow big beards. Over the Moon says, okay, you butchered my comment. All right, well, I'll try and unbutcher it. The Apollo detectives did a blackout until splashdown. Just a coincidence? That's not a butchering of your comment. I wasn't referring to the Apollo detectives. I was referring to myself. You referred it as you lot. You said you lot or something like that. I don't know what actually you said. I'm going to just scroll up. What was it? Just so you can't accuse me of. Yeah, you says. That's why you lot did a blackout there. So it's you lot. All right. I've seen a video of a football match where the players disappeared for a few seconds, I guess. There's that's because of that. I suppose that can't have been a very high quality football feed. Yeah, football match coverage, could it? AI Orbit says, AI excuse not accepted. It was blurred around the mascot. FFS, NASA, a joke now. So Over the Moon, you're going to answer my question. You're going to answer my question. You need to answer this. You were hoping for that. That's right. I was So you were saying because the Apollo detectives and myself and other people, for whatever reason, in my case, because I went to a conference, the Apollo detectives may not have wanted to cover it. They may have been watching and gathering information. And then you said that we were hoping that something will go terribly wrong, and these 4 guys, these 3 guys and 1 gal, would die. And you need to explain, you need to tell us right now why you think we thought that. What evidence have you got to accuse us of such a horrible thing? Please tell us. Yeah, once over with an electric shaver is all that was needed. Yeah, the thing is, they do use electric shavers on the ISS. You can't shave with water and blade, obviously, but they have it has to be. It has to have some way of preventing the bristles from going everywhere, because they it's basically they litter everywhere and they get into things. They get into the food, into the water, and stuff like that. Now, did they have that system aboard the Orion space capsule? Shall NASA? Artemis II gives NASA more time till the next mission. Well, yeah, I mean, it's with Apollo, they probably wanted to emulate Apollo, which involved, of course, a flyby to prove you can get to the moon and back before you start committing to landings. There was also another mission, allegedly, Apollo 10, which had which involved an orbital insertion and the use of the lunar module in orbit without a landing. David says here, yeah, Artemis 4 in around 2 to 3 years. They have to get the landing modules. Go away. The lunar insertion correct for this particular trajectory. Well, David seems to be on your side with this over the moon. He does. Okay, well, over the moon has gone quiet and is not. Over the moon is not addressing why he thought that I was, and other people in the Apollo detectives wanted a horrible thing to happen to those astronauts. We actually were hoping for that. So, all right. Over the moon says, when I use my electric shaver at home, the hair doesn't just drop onto the floor. It doesn't know, but it's not always contained. You see, if you're in a zero gravity environment, you need. I mean, I know they do this because they use it on the ISS. They used to use it on Skylab back in the 70s. It's a shaver combined with like a vacuum, like a Hoover. It's a shaver and Hoover combined. It shaves you can shave, but then it sucks up the bits. David, over the moon is a rude troll, in my opinion. Well, he's certainly behaving like one now. He's still not answering my question. Arts Channel 2, Artemis 2 proved Apollo was fake, as they have even less space and protection. I think I don't know if proof is a big word, but it's certainly we are certainly like dealing with we're certainly dealing with extra data, I'd say, extra evidence which we can apply to the Apollo missions. And this is a work in progress. We're still working on that. I'll go back to my notes. Now, there's an image there's one of the images that Deep Thought Radio provides. Again, this is you see what appears to be an Earth in the Earth with the sun behind, and you don't see any. You see the day side. You're in the middle of the day side. You're essentially at the zenith on midday. The craft is, and you don't see anything. Now, there was a glow behind. A lot of people are saying, well, this is not possible because this image is not possible. It is actually, because if you adjust the exposure, it could be that what we were looking at is actually moonlight, a moonlit image of the Earth, not sunlit, which you'd expect actually, because of the fact that they launched during full moon, and so they were in TLI shortly after the moon was full, which would have led to basically the Earth being fully lit by the moon and with the sun behind the Earth. Now, according to JARA, this is how they escaped a lot of the radiation, because there is a magnetotail on the Earth, which actually provides a certain amount of radiation protection from the sun, from solar flares and things like that. And that the danger point was only when they actually went into the lunar flyby mode. At this point, they were outside that magnetotail. So that's something that JARA thinks might explain the fact that they did have a lower radiation exposure than he expected. Again, he changed his mind like a good scientist does. Now, some people say, well, you notice that the cable cars actually deployed from the tower, from the control tower. Right, that they before the launch, literally just before the rocket took off, you see the emergency escape cable cars going. Now, this is a way that they can get away. This is a method that they use for getting away from the rocket. Say it's about to blow up or something. Something goes wrong. It's about to blow up. They get into these little. It's like a zip line with a cable car on it, and it takes them safely a safe distance from the rocket. Because you see, if they to get out of the rocket, they'd have to climb down the tower. So you go down those, about 20 flights of stairs to get to the ground, and you'd have to run or get into a vehicle or something. The zipline cable car allows them to escape much quicker. A similar thing was used with Apollo, actually. It was like a personal harness in this case. But in this case, I don't know exactly why it was. But the reason why, but for some reason they deployed those cable cars the moment the astronauts escaped. Now, the astronauts weren't in those cable cars because, if they wanted to get the astronauts out beforehand, like they did in Capricorn 1, that famous movie, they wouldn't have waited literally till the rocket took off and then say, right, get into the cable cars now and go. They wouldn't. They'd have moved them out before then. They had plenty of time. They had hours to get them out secretly if they wanted to. But they didn't. The astronauts did go up into space on the Orion rocket, on the rocket and on the whatever the rocket was called, in the Orion capsule. They did. David actually is actually. I know you are pro Apollo. You are, yeah. Well, that's interesting. At least you're being rational and calm about it, which is nice. Richard says here, is it true you get radiation exposure when you travel high up? Yes, you do. In fact, pregnant flight attendants have to take maternity leave very early on, because in the first trimester of pregnancy, they can't be at high altitude on a plane because of the radiation levels. Simply just being above, just being at a cruising height of an airliner, which is 30 to 40,000 feet. When you get to 30 to 40,000 feet, I think 3/4 of the Earth's atmosphere is actually below you at that point. So, which includes, so when you take a plane flight, you remember that it's only a few hours, which is just as well, because if it wasn't, you would actually get a radiation dose. And if you're pregnant, if you do that multiple times during your working life, it's you could harm the baby. Over the Moon says, you lot disappeared for the duration of the mission, hoping it wouldn't be successful, so you wouldn't have to make up even more ridiculous nonsense. The real Apollo detectives AWOL for 4 to 14 days. All right, I've had enough of this. Right, guys, well, I'm going to have to block Over the Moon. I'm not going to be blamed. I'm not going to have my character and the characters of people I know impugned in that way when he's giving no evidence at all, none. He is accusing, Over the Moon has been accusing us of having horrible, evil desires when we have said nothing that indicates that at all. I'm not going to tolerate that. So how do I do this? Oh, you can't. Can you not? How do you block people these days? I don't think you can these days. You have to go to the About page, don't you? There we go. Is this it? Okay, I'm not going to report him. I'm not a censor, but I'm going to. How do I block him? I think I just got to unsubscribe from him. Unsubscribe. There we go. Right there. Right. I don't know how you block people these days, but Over the Moon, that is totally out of order. Totally. And you will not say that sort of thing to us. How do I delete this comment? Delete comment. There we go. At least I can delete his comments. EA Audit says, it's a great human achievement sending a rocket around the moon. What I'm questioning is 4 astronauts and a mascot going with it, period. Of course, yes. And because people have been at the moon. Yeah, that's the thing. Ben, the cable cars are deployed as soon as the rocket is moving to get them out of the way for reuse. That's as far as I've had it explained to me anyway. Well, that would make sense, David, wouldn't it? That would make sense. I'm just going to delete. What's this? We get rid of this. I'm just deleting Over the Moon's comments because I don't know how exactly I block him these days. Maybe they don't do that anymore. I don't know. Yeah, David. Yeah, I don't know why they're just making fools of themselves, David. These people. when they just say, well, this is what I mean this is what I mean by Artemis derangement syndrome affecting them more than us. That's what I mean. It affects them more than us because they're the ones getting angry. They're the ones they're the ones attacking us personally, making slurs against our character. That's it. I'll click on his name in chat. There's a block option, right? Where is it? Here we go. I'll find one of his previous comments. Ban a user and delete their comments. There we go. Right. You're right, David. Yes. It shows how rarely I do that. It shows that I don't often do that, isn't it? It shows how rarely I actually do that. I'm not the sort of person who blocks people willy-nilly. And Richard says some of these private jets go to 50 to 70,000 feet. Also, if you're a frequent flyer. Yeah, that's right. In fact, when I used to do hot flights on space weather, and hot flights on space weather used to deal with charter flights, which were much higher up. They used to fly above commercial airlines. Concorde used to fly roughly 60 to 70,000 feet, much higher than most aircraft do. Okay, so I'll go back to my notes. Right, now there's this incident that Reed Waterman actually said. He actually described what they were doing as the first time. He called it the first time. This is what D7 said. I'm just trying to find the bit. It's probably just easy to go through here where he actually says this. This is a very interesting video, actually. Where was it? He says, well, basically, Reed was saying this is the first time we've been to the moon. Here we go. Right, here we go. I'll just show you on here, actually, it's the best thing to do. Here we go.
This latest fraud from Artemis II. Yeah, I think one of the astronauts on...
he's very funny, this guy. He's got his cigar and he's smoking. He's pretty cool.
Artemis II, one of the males. He was interviewed and he said he was talking about the Artemis project in general, not Artemis II. I guess he'd be talking about Artemis 4 nowadays. But he said, folks, what's amazing about this, I'm paraphrasing, this will be the first time man's ever landed on the moon.
How strange.
This is going to be an odd answer. It might land wrong, but I'm going to try anyway. This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon. This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon. This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon.
And this is really the.
Oh, this is someone on. This is Bart Sobral, as you see here. This is somebody on the ISS. This is an astronaut on the ISS.
The beginning, I think, of human beings leaving low Earth orbit.
The moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Right, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you could say these are slips. That, by the way, is Samantha Cristoforetti, I think, who I won't go into it now, but there are two incidents involving UFOs and this lady here, and they're very, very interesting indeed. Okay. So, and that's strange. I mean, this is the first time. Of course, you could say it's a slip of the tongue. They said this about Buzz Aldrin. Do you remember when he was talking to that young girl? And she asked he said, oh, we didn't go. I mean, this is why I don't think Buzz has been back. Buzz has not been back on the TV since then because he's not been back on TV because maybe they just don't want him doing that again. Perhaps the guy's old. He's obviously suffering from. He's suffering from a bit of the vapors, as people do sometimes when they get older, and that's the right thing to do. They say he's gonna start blurting more things out if you put him on the media. Sweep says here, right move, Ben. Over the moon was simply an insult to the whole thrust of your live stream and its audience. Sorry that had to happen. Thanks, Sweeps. Yeah, I mean, I'm the one here who's trying to be reasonable. I'm the one here who's trying to be. I'm trying my best to communicate. And he starts first of all by accusing me of like misreading his comments. This progressed to, well, I'm lying about him. I'm deliberately saying that he said something he didn't when it was just a mistake. And then it develops to, well, Ben is evil. Ben is saying, well, Ben is evil because he's thinking these evil thoughts. He can see inside my head, apparently. He knows what I'm thinking even when I'm not. Even when I'm not saying anything. Even when I say quite clearly many times, I really hope these four people are safe in space and they do come back to Earth. I've said it several times. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put up with that, Sweeps. I'm not going to put up with that. Right. David says, I believe that the context Reed meant was the first time that they're going in the Artemis program, not mankind, but that's my take. Well, I mean, maybe we should watch the whole of maybe there's a longer version, because, I mean, it cuts off literally just after he makes that point, which could be that if you listen to the whole of a little bit more of what he said, excuse me, I put it into context, then maybe that's what was really meant. Yeah. And as Art Charles says, yeah, Artemis II has created more doubt over the moon landings. And I think this is what frustrates people like Over the Moon and Steve Mumbling and these other Apollo supporters. They were hoping this would, like I said, they were hoping that this would end the debate in their favor. That's what they were hoping for. And of course it hasn't. If anything, it has reignited the whole issue, and indeed it's reignited the whole issue. It's caused it's actually in a sense this has fueled thought and conjecture on both sides of this debate, of this issue. And this is not what the NASA supporters were hoping for, and they're frustrated. They are frustrated because it hasn't worked out the way they wanted, which is why they're lashing out the way Over the Moon did. And less people are believing in the moon landings. It's become more popular as time has gone on, probably because the emotion of it is fading. The emotion now is like dying off a bit. I mean, in the early days, I mean, to question this, when you consider the amount of passion and the fact that when Apollo 11 landed in particular, it was. I've made this point many times. For those, I mean, it was before my time, but for those who were alive and watched it happen, as indeed my parents were, they describe it as almost a transcendental moment. It was a kumbaya event. Even in Hanoi in North Vietnam, they were cheering. This was a moment for just a few hours. We literally became one glorious whole of humanity, linking arm in arm, and things like that. And that kind of emotional impact takes a long time to subside, which is why more and more people are doing it now. All right. And now David says here, also, the context of Buzz, I reckon, was we never went, meaning we never went back. This is the context of the QT girl asked, why have they never been back? He goes on to talk about the mission. Could be. You see, David, that's a possibility. I know how context changes, you see, and this is why I don't jump to conclusions about what people mean. But I think some of these things are suspicious, but it's not conclusive. We have here Corsitus. Hi, I'm wondering how come we can't protect people from Chernobyl radiation, but they can protect the astronauts in a much higher radiation. Doesn't seem right. I love the way you spelled Chernobyl. See, now the thing is, I'm not sure exactly what the radiation levels are when you can compare the Chernobyl disaster zone with outer space. I don't know what the actual levels are. To be honest, even like astrophysicists and people aren't sure. But it's an important point. I think it was Bill Casing who said, well, if these suits are so good at protecting from radiation, why don't they go and clean up 3 Mile Island with it? This was before the Chernobyl disaster. He said this. Why don't they go in? Why don't they put them on and go into 3 Mile Island and clear them up? Well, it's a good point. I mean, it's partly to do with the type of radiation, because there's particles like alpha and beta particles, and there's X-ray and gamma rays. These are different. They have different penetrative power and things like that. And David, I agree. I'm an advocate for watching the whole thing. Yeah, I am too. Art Shannon says, it seems humans cannot adapt to space travel. Humans are adapted to the Earth. We are indeed, but we can actually use our technology to enter alien zones. In fact, we do that. We're diving. We go underwater. We have diving suits. We have submarines. We've even been to the deepest point on Earth, the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the Challenger Deep, in a specially adapted submarine. We can go into space. We're not trapped on Earth. How far we go into space depends, firstly, it depends on 2 factors: the technology that we have and the technology that is publicly available due to government restriction. And at the moment, there's a big discrepancy between the two, because we have only very, very limited space technology that's available to the public. And by public, I mean official space agencies like NASA and Roscosmos. and that which actually exists inside the breakaway civilization, the secret space program, because the capability of the secret space program is far greater. People have been at the moon, people have been to Mars, people may well have left the solar system on secret space program craft. Only Amiga says there is no debate. Only dunces would question or criticize this. I guarantee every single one of you is denying the moon landings are total losers. Oh, wait, really? Is that your argument? There is no debate. Let me just paraphrase what you just said, Only Amiga. There is no debate. Only dunces would question or criticize that 2 + 2 = 4. I guarantee every single one of you who claim that 2 + 2 = 4 are total losers. Right. Have you just proved that 2 + 2 = 5? If not, why not? You see, this is poisoning the well ad hominem. Yeah, this is a milder version of what Over the Moon did. And David says it depends on radiation intensity and exposure. Yeah, we did bring that up. Yeah, David. Yeah, it is rude. I mean, he's not as bad as Over the Moon, but yeah, it's awful. Arch Channel says robots will be first on the moon. Robots have already gone to the moon. Yeah. Of course, Citus says I was typing with one hand at the moment and fighting the autocorrect rubbish. I don't mind. I'm not one of the spelling police. Over the Amiga says we can use the corner reflectors to determine the distance to the moon with labors. Men put them there. All right, you're talking about the retroreflectors, yeah. Well, first of all, you don't need astronauts' hands to place things on the moon. It's been done already by robot craft like Jade Rabbit, like the Lunar Cod rover, etc. You don't need that. You could put things on the moon and bring them back without human hands. Secondly, you don't need those retroreflectors to measure the distance between the moon and the Earth or reflect radio waves. We know that because people were actually reflecting radio waves off the moon long before those objects were allegedly placed there. Bonto Max says, how will we find out if you die? Are you addressing me? Well, if you'll know, because you won't see any more Panwo TV, which would be sad, obviously, But yeah, you'll stop me. I will stop uploading content. You'll know that, yeah. If you're addressing me, if that's the case. But I hope that won't be for a while yet. I'm in good health. I'm not ready to do anything that could deliberately speed up my demise. So, as they say, as it's a bit of a cliche, Eric Burleson, I'm not suicidal, just in case something does happen to him. I think a lot of people like Burleson and others have been a bit spooked by the disappearances and deaths in the scientific community relating to aerospace and defense. This all came up when General Neil McCaslin disappeared. I did a video about that a couple of weeks ago. Since then, 10 more scientists have vanished or they've died. And one of them was one I've talked about before. That is Nuno Loureiro. David, although technically robots have via remote control. Only Amiga. No, they were for years. I said lasers, not radio waves. Yes, but you don't. I think it's the same for lasers. I think. I'll find the details because I watched a video where someone did that. I think that's the case. I can't remember the details here. Richard says, "Do you think Elon has used robots already in his spacecraft?" I don't know, actually. I don't know. He put a dummy, didn't he? He sent a dummy to Mars. Do you remember that? Let me just go back to my notes a minute. Let's see, I'm going to go for everything. Right. China. Right. Another thing that this guy says, this DTR person, is that China knows that NASA faked the moon landings. And they're not saying anything. And you say, well, why? Why wouldn't they? Well, it goes back to politics and economics. They're not doing it for the same reason that the Soviet Union didn't blow the whistle on Apollo. Because politics is a very, very different thing. There's two types of politics. There's the politics involving the state and its actors interacting with the general population. And there's another type of politics, which is different state actors from different countries interacting privately with each other. and you'll find that those two relationships are completely different. Completely different. In that ivory tower of private discussions, when there's no news cameras, no microphones, these people who say they're enemies are not necessarily enemies. The people who claim to be enemies for public consumption will cooperate, knowing that the conflict which is projected to the public is beneficial for them and their own domestic politics. Another thing is economic. I mean, the Soviet Union had a trade deal with the US over import and exports of wheat. That's another reason. There's also the possibility that the US had a bit of dirt on the Soviet space program as well. Some of the issues that were faked there, they faked some of their stuff too. There were actually some attempted manned missions before Yuri Gagarin, which ended in disaster, and the Russians didn't want this publicized. And in terms of China, China is, as far as its economic relationships with the world goes, I mean, it's what doesn't it export? I mean, almost everything we use now is made in China. I've got almost everything around me. I mean, most of the stuff is made in China. They're the only people. It seems they're the only country in the world that has any factories. They need our custom for their economy. It's essential. They now have the most powerful economy in the world. It's compared to other nations, it's booming. They've taken over the role of the world's economic superpower, which is previously the US. The US has declined and China's taken over, probably because the Illuminati want it that way. But they can't be that economic superpower unless people buy their shit. This is again. That's why. I'll just go back to mine. I know there's some more comments I'm going to answer in a minute. No delayed transmission. Okay, I've done that. AI vids on the ISS. Okay, according to this guy, there's some AI. Some of the videos from the ISS were AI as well. I don't know if I can find that. Hang on. Is it worth looking for that? I'm going to look if I can find it because it's quite a long video. But he said there was some people doing some work outside the spaceship, and it turns out there was some fakery. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, where is it? Just checking here. Oh, you watch what I'm doing. I'm not going to bore you here. This is actually a good. Is it here? Okay, guys. This is. I do like this. Here it is. Right. Now he says this is interesting.
The European space agencies over to China. But I thought he said another thing I thought was pretty heartwarming. And he said, well, part of it is just that at the level of the scientists in China, they really believe it would be tremendously disrespectful to their friend to expose the fraud. The European space probably does a lot of communication.
This is where he discusses the issue of why China wouldn't blow the whistle.
Stuff and might actually assist, I don't know, ballistic missiles and that kind of stuff. We're sharing that with the Chinese. And so Bart says, hey, wait a minute, that's illegal. That's not a partner of ours at that level. And that would be a felony if anything gets shared over there. And he goes,
I mean, let's face it, China is actually a military rival of the United States.
Oh, yeah. No, what actually happens is the NASA shares it with the European Space Agency, and they don't have the problem with sharing it with China.
No.
So it's laundered through the European Space agencies over to China. But I thought he said another thing I thought was pretty heartwarming. And he said, well, part of it is just that at the level of the scientists in China, they really believe it would be tremendously disrespectful to their friend to expose the fraud.
Wow.
I thought, man, that's kind of nice. That's
something I have not thought of this. This is something I never considered before.
True. He firmly believed that was the case. And we know every country has someone who would sell out 2 seconds. But apparently the individuals working on the Chinese space programs, they have that moral base. I think that's kind of cool. Now, of course, what I think that they're sharing
honor among thieves
is how to film underwater, right? There was a recent clip I'll share with you.
This is interesting, right? Now, this doesn't relate to the moon missions, and I'm not a space denier. I don't believe in flat Earth, and I believe the ISS is real. But this was a bit curious.
Where someone is supposedly doing a spacewalk, and they're using a socket wrench on a bolt on one of the sort of solar panel wings of the space station. And again, if you haven't worked on a car and turned a wrench in your lifetime, you've never held a Stanley wrench in your hand or a socket in your hand, you might look at this and go, well, that's cool. But the second that you've ever worked on an engine block or anything in your lifetime with a socket wrench, even taking a spark plug out with your special spark plug socket, you'll realize that this isn't connecting with the bolt, and it's completely AI generated. And on the subject of AI generated video, just in case anyone has a doubt about how good AI video is, Sea Dance 2.0.
Oh, it's just, he just gives an example of AI generation. Now that's odd, isn't it? Because I mean, I'm not really looked at the ISS thing because I don't believe the ISS is fake. But well, that's odd, isn't it? That's strange. Let's go back up here. Because there's some comments here. All right, Dave explains isolation. Stephen Greer says that the scientists have disappeared or died because they discovered anti-gravity. I'm not sure. I haven't actually watched Dr. Testosterone's latest release, but I will check it out. If I can see past his muscles and things like that. You know, I get a bit strange when I watch Stephen Greer. I'll cool down with Annie Jacobson afterwards. But it is interesting because there's something is going on with those scientists. It's like the Marconi deaths. Something there is going on, and I don't know what it is. David says, is there still an astronaut dummy in a Tesla orbit, or did it burn up in the atmosphere? I think it went to Mars. I don't know what happened to it after that, but Elon put it in his own car. At least he drives his own product, which is nice. And Art says the first animal to orbit the Earth was a dog. Yeah, Laika, poor Laika. Yeah. Tor says, science proved that the platypus was fake. Yeah, the scientists could see the stitches. Yeah, when the first duck-billed platypus specimen was brought back to the West by Captain Cook, the original discoverer and explorer of Australia, people accused him of fraud. They'd say, you got an otter and you stuck a duck's beak on it. You fraud. Yes. No, he said, no, it's real, honestly. It even lays eggs. This is what, an egg-laying mammal? Shut up. Yeah, poor old Laika. She was in this craft overheated, unfortunately, she died. Laika, the Americans called her Curly because there was huge outrage over this, obviously fueled by Cold War politics. But the animal rights people, PETA and people like that, the RSPCA, they were like enraged by what happened there, and as they should do. Yeah. Tessa, computers back then were thousands of bucks. Yeah, it comes down, doesn't it? It comes down over time. David, I think the platypus is the only mammal that lays eggs. Could be God's sense of humor to confound the cocky dogging nationalist, God-denying evolutionists. So, dearie me, Richard Dawkins, somewhere smoke is coming out of Richard Dawkins' ears. But it is a planet, like many animals in Australia, it's evolved independently for millions of years because it's been separated from the rest of the biosphere. That's why you get marsupials rather than placental mammals. The kangaroo with the baby in its pouch. And indeed, egg laying may have obviously continued in this particular type of creature. Yeah. We have here Tylerosaurus. That's Tylosaurus. That's a good name. The first moon robot was a simple rover, but rovers do not last on the moon. As a single day is 28 days. Yeah. Rovers are solar powered, which means there's nothing to power them and they die. Well, I think the Jade Rabbit had a battery, so it could last the lunar night. And David is comparing what the Laika's fate to people who leave dogs in their cars on a hot day. Yeah, it's horrible, that. Channel. Is it possible life forms exist on the moon? I essentially say no because of no air, no radiation, no water, radiation, stuff like that. But every time you say no, you're proved wrong usually when it comes to things like this. So I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Maybe like the Selenites. You ever see that The First Men on the Moon movie? It's on YouTube. It's a corker. Do watch it. And funny enough, about The First Men on the Moon, it's based on a H.G. Wells novel. It involves anti-gravity and not rockets. Yeah, the Professor Carver. He invents this thing called Carverite, which reflects gravity. How about that? That's I think one of the earliest pieces of literature, speculative fiction about the moon. Let's just actually look at Burleson now. I mean, this is totally off topic, but I think I've gone through my notes now. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. I'm not going to bother with the comments on the Artemis II debrief video because most of them are about Over the Moon, who's now persona non grata. I was going to read out a few of them. I'll cover them. Won't do Over the Moons, but I'll cover some people's in the next reply to comments video. But anyway, let's look at Burleson, what he has to say about the missing scientist. Here we go.
There are these 10 missing scientists.
Yeah, so even Trump is now talking about it.
Access to classified stuff, nuclear material, aerospace. They've all gone missing or turned up dead in the last couple months. Based on what you've been briefed, what do you think is happening here? And do you think that this is connected or totally random?
Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left the meeting on that subject, so...
We're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left a meeting on that subject. What's he talking about? How does he know that? What was at the meeting? What information do they have?
Yeah, pretty serious stuff, but we're going to be hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, whatever you want to call it. But
don't talk crap, Ginger. It's not coincidence. It's not coincidence. It's something else going on. Something else is going on. I mean, it's again, you could, as I said with my skeptic video, you can never ever prove whether or not it's real or not. You can never prove because there's no statistical ceiling above which the skeptics will stop using that argument. But common sense says it's not coincidence.
Some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next short period.
So take a look. The White House now probing the disappearances of the people behind me, the deaths of 10 scientists at least. Let's break down some of the...
There's been an 11th one, actually, since then.
Cases. For example, let's look at Michael David Hicks. He dies at the age of 59 years old. And David Michael Hicks, a longtime JPL scientist involved in asteroid and comet research, no public cause of death given. And then you have a situation like Monica Reza. Monica Reza vanished while hiking under weird circumstances. And then you have William Neal McCaskill.
Yeah, I'm saying Monica Reza's disappearance was very Paulidian. I mean, it was literally... It's what you hear about in the Missing 411 documentaries. Someone's walking behind you, turn around, they're just gone. They're just vanished.
This guy disappeared in February, deep ties to the Air Force research programs. So everyone has a bit of a mystery to their passing, and people are wondering, with the very similar backgrounds, extremely bright people, extremely successful people, extremely valuable people, is this all related? As you heard, the president can't say yes or no publicly yet, but the mystery remains. Let's bring in House Oversight Committee.
This reminds me of Atlas Shrugged, where all the industrialists disappear. You know, I mean, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You know.
Member Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson, who is calling for the FBI to get involved.
This guy is probably the basest of all. I mean, there's loads of real base guys in Congress. There's Lunar and there's Burchett and there's Moskowitz and people like that. This guy's probably my favorite. He really, really is. Can you still see me? You should be able to. But, do you know there's a rumor this guy was going to speak at Contact in the Desert? I mean, if that were true, that would be extraordinary. That a sitting government official, a political government official, not a civil servant, someone who's elected, speaking at a UFO conference while in office, not ex like Paul Hellyer, while in office, that would be quite something. There's only one other occasion in history I know of something like that happening, and that was in 1977 at the first International UFO Congress in Acapulco, Mexico, where Sir Eric Gehry spoke, Prime Minister of Grenada. That's the only other time I can think of in history, at the very first UFO Congress, that happened.
Congressman, when did you first find out about this?
My office found out about it last year. We sent a letter to the FBI about a gentleman named Matthew Sullivan, who actually we had reached out to. He was scheduled to come in for an interview. Within 2 weeks, he had suspiciously committed suicide. That report was referred to the Office of Inspector General. They deemed it credible and urgent. They then referred it to the FBI. So this is not the first that we've heard of this. That was the first that we became aware of.
President was briefed extensively yesterday, and he's worried about it. You know, we hear about all this. We also know we're in a big time race with China for all this too. And then people wonder about the undisclosed UFO program that more and more people are pushing to get answers on.
Exactly,
is there a relation to any of that from which you could share with us?
There certainly is. So General McCaslin, for example, is someone that we had reached out to twice to try to get some answers from. He is someone who was a critical role in working for the Air Force, particularly when it came to research. He was the one that oversaw a lot of this.
He was in General McCaslin. As I explained in the video about this, General McCaslin was in Tom DeLonge's unreleased documentary. There's only like a trailer of it. It was never actually released. But yeah, this cancelled documentary, he was in it.
This advanced research.
In silhouette, anonymously.
He was someone that was very difficult to get a hold of. But we reached out to him twice, and then he just mysteriously disappeared.
How about that?
You know what's wondering? If one person disappears, we see press conferences, and we see people and mysterious deaths. We would see family members. Why haven't we heard more from family members and associates about their concern?
Yeah, I don't know, Brian. I wish we would. But look, what's really disturbing when you look back and reflect on it, you've got Monica Reza, you've got Anthony Chavez, you got Melissa Cassius, and you have Stephen Garcia, all of which, along with General McCaslin, walked out of their homes, or in the case of Mrs. Reza, she disappeared on a hike without their phones. They just literally disappeared, left all of their devices at home. This is not normal. These are some of the most advanced scientists, researchers in our nation, some of the most important people for a nation's national security efforts, and they all just mysteriously disappeared.
So, I mean, this does have all the hallmarks of some type of international or foreign effort, because we're in competition on nuclear. We're in competition on advanced weaponry. We're in competition on getting to the moon. And who you are in competition with? China, Russia, Iran. So that brings, if there's anything worthy of a all hands on deck investigation, this seems to be it.
This is a rattling call to pay attention to this issue and make sure that our nation's top scientists are safe and secure. This is too coincidental. And so,
if you were a scientist right now in this field, wouldn't you be worried? You may think, am I next?
we have to be investigating this. We need to have our nation's top investigators, the FBI, and every agency looking into this matter.
8 have been found missing or dead since 2025. So this is only going to grow. In fact, I know one of the scientists that came out and said they thought that they were being threatened and stalked.
Yeah, we've heard that from multiple cases where they've all felt some form of threat.
And lastly, is this something Democrats and Republicans can get behind together?
Absolutely, Brian. My office is leading a joint effort with Democrats. This is a bipartisan issue where we're leading a letter to the FBI to make sure that they address this issue and properly investigate this.
Yeah, I would love to see press conferences with some of their colleagues who probably share your concern. Congressman, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's going on there? What's going on there? Eh? Very, very strange. And indeed, this is reminiscent of the Marconi deaths in the 1980s. Let's just go through your comments here. Oh. Yeah, and David says, have you watched the 1950 film Destination Moon? Yes. Oh, yeah, that was very good, if I remember rightly. And it was exciting, too. It was very exciting, yeah. David said, do you remember there was a similar strange spate of scientist deaths in the early 2000s that made the news in the conspiracy? I don't remember that. I remember the Marconi deaths in the 80s, which David Griffin has talked about. EA said, the Pope said the world has been run by the wicked, including NASA. Well, he's absolutely right. He's American too as well. Oh, Ed Skeptic. Hello, Ed Skeptic. So why have they all been killed then? That's a good question. Well, firstly, we don't know they're all dead. Some of them have vanished. Some of them, McCaslin could be alive. I hope he is, obviously. Yeah. I don't know. This is the big question we got to answer. And David says the Pope misquotes Jesus Christ for his own political agenda. I don't trust anything he comes out with. Okay. Arts. Do you think the deaths are linked to aliens? Could this be Blue Beam? Yeah, it's possible. That could be. The fact that McCaslin was involved with the technical. It used to be called the Technical Data Section. It's now called the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson. Is interesting because that's where the Roswell debris went. That's the last thing we heard before the story disappeared. That it was taken there. Tessa, the first do no harm or comes back 3 times. It doesn't seem to apply to the AI. The first do no harm is something from it's a medical precept. It comes back 3 times. Oh, I don't know what you mean, Tessa. Sorry. Blue Beam says David, was originally an invention. It could predict what might happen. Yeah. Serge Monast, it was a Canadian who actually blew the whistle on that. Why have they been killed, says Ed? They may not be dead. We don't know. But yeah, I don't know. ESP, so late. Oh, dear. Yeah, I'm going to finish soon, actually, ESP. So you've come in for last orders. But because I need to get up early tomorrow to go to London. Torenga, remember the thumbs up. Thanks, mate. I bet you ChatGPT will explain this away some way. Yeah. Well, ChatGPT has had several lobotomies. I know it has, yeah. Because you'll probably say something about coincidence, yeah. David says, as James Bond said, once this happenstance, twice as coincidence, 3 times as enemy action. Yeah. So Bond there is doing what the skeptics can't. He's drawing a statistical ceiling. ESP. It's why Bob Lazar did what he did. Well, go public, yeah. But if Bob Lazar, assuming Bob Lazar's for real, if he hadn't gone to George Knapp and said, I want to go public, what would they have done to him? EA. If we stay silent, it'll be us next. Well, the thing is, me and you were kind of, if anything, if they try to do anything to us, then who'd believe it? See, who'd believe it? Tor says something interesting here. I missed this one. Death of a scientist. Very similar to 10 politicians in Germany who died in the same, or they just competitor to the ruling party just before an election. Just a coincidence. Yes. Tor, yeah, it was all. I remember a number of politicians died very suddenly. It was all from the same party. Do you remember? I think it was AfD, the Alternative for Germany party, that was threatening them. The mainstream. So this was a rival upcoming party that was a serious threat. It was mostly in the Old East, but it was a serious threat to like the power structure in Berlin. And it's supposedly all the candidates just start popping off. It's weird, isn't it? ESP, so they can't talk. Well, they can, but they need to take steps for their safety. Loved Elrond in V. Oh, V was cool, wasn't it? Yeah. David said, Ben, it's like everybody instantly knew that 9/11 was enemy action when the second tower was hit. Before then, it could have been an accident, but at that point of zero doubt had been reached. Well, you see, the thing is, like, if you go by the skeptics, the way skeptics think, David, it's possible that a skeptic could have said that the fact that a plane hit one tower and then it hit another could be a coincidence. There's literally skeptics that will claim. They will claim things that are literally that unlikely. You know they do. I think of examples. They will literally claim that something's. They will say it's just a coincidence. In my skeptic talk, I give examples of exactly that kind of counterintuitive, common unsense. All right, guys. I think we'll call it a night. I've got to get up early tomorrow because I'm off to Conway Hall in London, so I'm going to have to leave probably about 6 o'clock to get there on time because doors open 9:30. But thank you very much, all of you who have posted tonight, such as, and as Tessa says, Building 7 wasn't hit at all. Yeah, David, Tessa, ESP, EA Audits, Tor Engen, Ed Skeptic, Arts Channel. Who else is here? Just going through. Only Amiga. Corsitus. Not Over the Moon. I'm not thanking him. Sweeps Fox, of course. Richard. Rhiannon. Welsh Ripper. Jake Yorkman. And anyone else I've left, Steve Wills, and I've left a few people out. Gavin, I'm sure I'll leave some people out. Sorry about that. But thank you, all of you. Nunites, David, Splendid Isolation. Good night, Tor Engen. And I will be back soon with another video. Not sure what yet, but I've got some plans. And thanks all of you for taking part in this Hapanwo TV live stream. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.